Hey, are you there?
Listen to this.
News,
music,
poetry,
drama,
interviews,
commercials,
and variety shows are all beautifully packaged in one piece and are represented on the #1 radio, Apex One Radio.
Apex One Radio?
Stay with us.
Stay with us.
Stay with us.
Stay with us.
And of course, the show is African Fiesta with Crazy Boys and NS. Time for us to move to Bamenda, northwest region of Cameroon, where Waa Musi is already on the line. And from that end, he now joins us. Waa Musi, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, NS, and it's my pleasure to be on Apex One Radio.
Thank you.
So, how is Bamenda this day?
Well, Bamenda has been, it's in the grassland area of Cameroon, and this afternoon we're experiencing a very cold weather. I just rushed down to get my pullover because it's getting really too cold here.
Oh, wow.
But it's fine. The weather is a little bit cold, but the plants are doing good, and the farmers are making their harvest.
Right. Okay, Waa Musi, you are a member of the Copyright Corporation that handles audiovisual and photography issues known as CAP. You are also the former chair of the Cameroon film industry, and you are a journalism lecturer. In fact, you've lived your life around this sector of filmmaking, and what have you. Once again, you're welcome on the show. And we invited you on this show to clarify public opinion on a good number of issues, including the quality of Cameroonian movies and the censor board Cameroon is supposed to have or supposed to have had. So, first question, Musi, did you listen to previous speakers?
Yes, I got to listen to them. They got a couple of vital information related to a subject of discussion.
Right. And
I have actually lived in the copyright for, I think, 2000, and you must know we were amongst those who drew the copyright law in Cameroon during the reign of our ex-minister, Nkanya. And I think the law is still being implemented to a date.
Right.
And I think there's a better mastery of that law and how they print as one of the predecessors of that law, the law in 2000.
Right. Now, Musi, a lot has been going on in the Cameroonian movie sector, and a lot has been said about the quality of films produced in Cameroon nowadays. Some people think that there's been a lot of improvement, others think that no, Cameroon still has a long way to go. But I would like us to have this education before we get into the crux of the matter. It's the same question I've asked the previous speakers. Now, to describe a movie production as complete, what are the elements which this production must have?
Well, first, if you want to describe a film as being complete, you must first look at, I want to go back to what we discussed with the first speaker on telling you what a real film is. And when you ask what a good film is, they tell you it's a story, and it's a story. I must tell you, I share that view, which is a very positive view, because for each film to go through, you have to have a good story. And if you look at the different stages of production, you're talking about pre-production. And that's when you're doing all the planning and making final checks on your script and planning and making sure everything is ready. And when you get to production, you are only implementing the things that you did at the pre-production stage. And if your pre-production stage, if you have lapses at the level of the pre-production stage, which is the planning, and then at the level of production, you're definitely going to have shortcomings. Just the same as you move to the post-production. But, when you say a film is complete, it means this film has passed through these different stages of production, these 3 stages of production. And at the end of it all, there is what is called distribution and marketing. Your film will not only be complete if your film hasn't gotten the audience which you targeted at the beginning. It's not only about the story, but it's about reaching out to the expected audience of your story. So I think a film, to be complete, needs to pass through the different stages of production, and it's based on the story. If a story is wrongly written, if the story doesn't meet the norm, and then that film at the end will be discredited. But the question, there is a nuance with the question you asked, because I have a worry when you say for a story to be complete. For a movie to consider a bad quality movie, what is taken into consideration? I think there are two aspects here we'll be looking at. We are not only looking at the fact that the movie in question is it has a bad quality, but we're also looking at the storyline of the movie, because when you talk of quality, it's something different, because that comes at the level of production. If you look at some of the films that are in the market today, I want to stay within our case study of Cameroon. If you look at the films that are in the Cameroonian market today, you would realize that these films have moved from time immemorial. You have movies that were shot at the early stage on 35mm. You had films that other filmmakers came in the later time of the years when digital technology started. They started doing films on digital technology. And today we are talking about high definition. And now I would say that the quality of a movie is really not the issue with a good film. A good film still goes back to the fact that you need to have a good story.
Now,
I think that's the challenge we have.
Right. I'm still going to ask the layman question. Fantastic story, captivating story, a story you won't afford to miss. Yet, poor sound, poor lighting, and perhaps poor editing.
Pictures.
Would you consider that as a successful film?
Well, I will take you back to what we call the different stages of people learning. You know, there is a theoretical part of studying filmmaking.
Right.
And there is the practical part of filmmaking. What I have realized, I think within our Cameroonian context, that I'm making it in a general perspective as to what has to be applied. First, for a movie, fantastic story, yes. The technicians hired for the job. I'm talking about starting from the producer, the director, and the crew members, the actors and the actresses. If you don't hire a professional director who knows how to call the angles of the shot, then you're failing in your profession, in the product that you're about to produce. If you are not a professional producer, you are failing. If you don't hire the right actors and actresses who have passed their audition, and then you're failing. So I would not say there is even supposed to be a bad movie, because it starts from the planning. That's why I insisted that there is an issue at the level of pre-production. Because when you don't have it, what happens? You get a director who has not been schooled. You get a director who has not had hands-on training. You get a director who does not master the 3 basic shots in a movie. How do you expect that director to give you what you want? You get a sound engineer who does not know how to do the sound, how to collect the ADR sound, doesn't know what kind of sound is good for what kind of a movie. What do you expect at the end of the day? So I think, Ernest, it really boils down to professionalism. People need to study. People need to have the theoretical part of filmmaking, and people need to have the practical part. Now, I will take you a little bit, I will define a little bit to say, look at a student who just left a film school. When you see a student at a film school, if he does a film, and you see a film done by someone who has been on the field, who went to a film school and has had the experience of being in the field, when you look at their films, you will see a little bit of finesse at the level of that person who has had that experience theoretically in the class and who has also had a practical experience. So I really want to say, Ernest, there is really no bad film so long as we maintain standards and we learn, we study to be professionals, and then we're going to do good films. This sounds at times, the sound in the movie is bad. Actors are bad because I did a story. Yes, Waa Musi wrote a story. Yeah, Waa Musi wants to be a director because he wants Censors. Waa Musi wants to be a producer because he thinks it's his movie. Waa Musi wants to be an actor because he thinks that he wrote the script and he should acquire fame. Fame is not only about fame. So when people write scripts and want to do it, want to direct it, want to edit it, at the end of the day, what happens is they are caught up in the net of unprofessionalism. They are caught up in the net of setback and double function. And at the end of the day, what they get is what we call a bad movie. So I think that is where the problem starts.
Right. Now, Waa Musi, I would like us to look at the role of editing in the success of a production. Some people say the best films are the ones that are properly edited. True assertion?
Talking about a good film, saying is the one that are properly edited. it still goes to the fact that properly edited, yes, because I think you want to have a good film at the end. I keep telling my students each day that when you fail at the level of planning, you are bound to fail at the level of your finished product. So if you give the worst film to the best editor or the worst pictures collected in the field to the best editor in the world, the only thing you can do is credit for the money you pay. Otherwise, some of them will say, I'm not editing this trash. So I think the best editing will only depend on the kind of shot, the kind of movie, the kind of images that were collected at the production stage, and having a good, because I know most of the problems we face in the film industry is we don't respect the norms of production. We don't respect the different forms. We don't respect the rules that we have to play in editing. How would you do a movie as a director? You take the movie to the studios and you give it to an editor and you're not there to supervise the editing. I think, and if we keep talking about finished products, we should start thinking about how we plan to get to that stage of a finished product. Because if I have to answer your question like yes and no, I will tell you yes. A good film will depend on good editing, but I would, at the same time, professionally, I will tell you this will depend on the images you got at the level of production.
Poor planning, poor finishing. His name is Waa Musi. He is a filmmaker par excellence and also a film educator. Now, Waa Musi, you've been an observer of the Cameroonian film landscape, at least in contemporary times. Would you say there has been an improvement in the quality of films made in Cameroon today?
Drastically, Ernest. The previous speakers threw a lot of light on that. There's been a lot of improvement at the level of the film that they're producing in Cameroon today. I take a simple example from my movie that I did. I remember in 2006, I did a movie on A Grain of Honesty. That movie I shot with an analog camera, Ernest. I shot that movie with an analog camera, and believe me, that movie won Best Feature Film Africa at the 10th Abuja International Film Festival in Nigeria. And if you look at that movie, the main thing they will tell you, it was a feature film. The quality of the pictures might not have been the best. You know, it was considered for the competition because I am aware that the jury also took into consideration the storyline, the flow, and the technicalities that were involved in the production. And you see, I keep talking about this issue of quality and bring us behind because I know in every festival, in every competition that movies are sent in, the jury has a criteria of selection. And in one of those jury, what they usually would consider, probably they say sound has two marks on 20, quality of pictures has 1 mark, story has 15, and so it still brings us to the understanding that Cameroonian movies have improved drastically because we are talking about digital technology. Most of the filmmakers that we have in Cameroon today, who are young, enterprising, and aspiring filmmakers, have had that education. Most of them have gone to school to study. Most of them have had hands-on training, and some of them are still embarking into study. I met a young man yesterday who told me, "Sir, I would like to do filmmaking, and I want to find out if you know of any film school in Cameroon where I can enroll to do filmmaking." These are strengths to show that the movie makers in Cameroon, there are lots of young people aspiring to become filmmakers. And this is only as a result of the models that we are seeing in the industry. And I would insist that we have improved drastically because look at the films that are going into festivals. 5-6 years ago, a Cannes Film Festival 10 years ago would not have had a Cameroonian film win the prize that Nightfall won a while ago. That is to prove to you that we have stepped up our quality, we have stepped up our professionalism, and we are moving towards that. Lots of other films are coming up. Like my previous speaker talked about the TV series that's going on. That's a good film that's coming out soon. And even the film that was recently done by Musi Derek, Tenacity. If you look at the quality of pictures of the movie that you see online, you see on the internet, I bet you, Ernest, it's high proof to Cameroonians and to the world that the movie industry in Cameroon has kept its bound. And I give you the next festivals are across Africa. put it on the table, I'll have to bet for Cameroon.
Now, Waa Musi, you and the previous speakers have confirmed that there has been a lot of improvement in the quality of movies done in Cameroon today. Yet, the lay Cameroonian thinks that it's not the case, and it's common to hear complaints that Cameroonian movies are not properly done. So, do you think that it is just a layman's viewpoint and that it doesn't hold any water? Or you think truly we still have some movies that need to, to be worked upon? So how do you feel about these worries that keep coming up?
Yes, I would say that the layman should definitely be the man on the street, and as a filmmaker, you must pay a lot of attention to your audience, and your audience are those people who consume your product. When you look at the audience that we have in Cameroon, I would say the problem we're having at that level is Cameroonian films have not had the exposure. I mean, the films that we are producing now have not had enough exposure to be able to reach out to the public. And that's why I think at the level of the film industry in Cameroon, most of our efforts are geared towards marketing. Because we have to derive new marketing strategies to make sure that our audience gets access to the films. I remember I have an actress with me here. When I opened my diary a while ago to show her the movies that I have in my shelf, she was so surprised to have seen. I think if you go on my Facebook page, you'll see a couple of movies. Those are movies that I have in my shelf. She was so surprised to ask if all these movies are Cameroonian movies. I told her these are Cameroonian movies, and behold, she said she has never watched up to 3 of these movies. And I think these are and she's an actress. So I think the public of Cameroon needs to go into a data bank. But this cannot happen if we, the executive producers or the producers, do not create a viable market where people can get our movies. So I think we have a challenge at the level of marketing. But the public, which is a layman, to me, is the best person to assess your movie. Because what they say plays a lot on the prospects of the industry. And I think we as filmmakers need to take this very serious, because they are not only saying we don't have good films. Maybe some of them have watched some of the films that we did about 15 years ago and have not had access to the films that we do today. But I say the films that we did 15 years ago still have credibility, even to compete with some of the films we do today, because these films have originality at the level of their story. I'll give you one example. A film that was shot in Bangkok, they call it Ngok. You might have heard about this movie. It's called Ngok.
Right, sure.
This movie was shot by a novice, someone who has not even gone to secondary school. He has never gone into any classroom to study filmmaking, but he had a wonderful story about chieftaincy crisis in Com. So he decided to do a movie about that. And I bet you, Ernest, if you look at the movie, the shots were totally against the norms of filmmaking. The sound was something else. Everything about the movie technicality was bad. But the guy, I would assure you, is one of the highest Cameroonian movies I have ever sold, because the guy sold the movie like any other thing. But this is because of the story. And he had access to his audience. He carried the movie along. He went to all the places, and people can identify. And if you ask a lay Cameroonian today that what is the situation of the movie, they will tell you we don't have good quality movies, because they might have watched maybe in Washington. They are mad about the story, but when they compare it with other films that they have watched internationally from our neighboring countries and industries that we compete with, they say we are not playing our game rightly. So I think the people who are doing the good movies are not breaking it down. They are sending their movies to festivals. They are sending them to TV channels. Most people don't have television sets in their houses. Some people do not have time to watch television, but they want to buy the movies. They want to sit at their own convenience to stream the movies online and watch, or someone to buy and watch in their home to their family. But when they have access to those movies that the people who produce the movie knew the purpose of filmmaking, like bring film, selling and making money out of it, they push their market closer to the public. And when the audience gets those movies, at the end of the day, it becomes a nuance, and they say Cameroonians are doing bad films. But I assure you, Ernest, our target is to reach out to the people, and we have put in place lots of strategies to reach out to the people. And one of which I think is going to work out, the TV series we're doing is going to run on the national television, and I think most of the Cameroonian actors and actresses are featured in that film. And I think we're stepping it. But as I speak to you now, and as part of the film industry, we are gearing towards setting up a good marketing platform.
Our target is to reach out to the Cameroonian public. His name is Waa Musi, filmmaker par excellence, and Waa is painting a true and beautiful picture of the Cameroonian film landscape. He's speaking live from Bamenda, Cameroon. Waa Musi, we are going to come back to you, and when we do, we shall be running off with some film politics. Precisely, we shall be talking about Cameroon and the censor board. This is African Fiesta coming to you from Apex One Radio with Kanjo and
Gracie Boise.
Welcoming those of you who have just joined on us in this last segment of the show. Perhaps we'll make another brief stopover in Switzerland and round off with Nkanya. Then we go back to Bamenda and close the door with Waa Musi. But before both men come up again, music.
Thank you again for tuning in with Apex One Radio. Stay with us on www.apexoneradio.com. Apex One Radio, your radio.
The August the 26th, 2015. Apex One Radio is the station, and of course, African Fiesta is the show. We are continuing from the studio in Columbus, Ohio. Myself, Kanjo and
Gracie Boise.
Time for us to move back to Bamenda, where Waa Musi is back on the line. Waa Musi, welcome back.
News, music.
Thank you very much, Ernest, and it's nice being on again.
And Waa Musi, we are running off this discussion, and this time we shall be talking some film politics here. I know you've been in film administration for a very long time now. You are a member of SCAP. You were the first president of the Cameroon Film Industry CFI, and you've also been a very keen observer as far as film issues are concerned in Cameroon. First question. Does Cameroon have a film censor board?
Yes, and Cameroon has a film censors board, and this board is run at the level of the Ministry of Arts and Culture. This board actually operates by a ministerial law that was voted by Parliament, and this board operates with the Director of Cinema as chairperson of that board. The board is made up of the Director of Cinema, who chairs the board.
Right.
It has a member of the Copyright Corporation who sits on that board. It has a member from the military who sits on that board. It also has a member from the council, that's the delegate from the council of the city in which this movie can be previewed.
Right.
And then it also has a member from the Cameroon film industry, which is what we advocated when we started the plight for the Cameroon film industry in 2008. We advocated for a member of the Cameroon film industry to be in that board, and also the producer and director of the movie in question to be previewed by that censors board is part of that board. And inclusively, there is always a journalist or a film critic on that board.
Right. Now, Waa Musi, this is serious because a lot of people are getting to know this for the first time. Are filmmakers in Cameroon aware that this board exists?
Well, I would say they are aware, but practically they don't know that is actually what is going on. Because for most of the movies, I would give you practicalities. We have always insisted at the level of the Ministry of Arts and Culture, they always insist that before a movie is shot, a script is submitted at the Ministry of Arts and Culture for them to review the script before they give you an authorization to shoot that movie. Most of the filmmakers in Cameroon do not go through this process. A greater section of some of the filmmakers do go through this process. And I think if you have gone through this process, there are 2 stages to get to finish. And the first stage is first submitting your film and applying for an authorization to shoot your movie,
Right.
which is being delivered to you at the level of the Ministry of Arts and Culture. Some people will be asking why you should have a military person on the board, why you should have somebody of the city council. I think one of the issues that we want to bring out clear in this discussion is that in Cameroon, you have, Cameroon is a peace-loving country, and some of these things were included in that law because they thought some of the scenes, you will not shoot a movie in Cameroon with scenes that have military implications, guns, weapons, war film, without having actually someone of the military there to supervise. I think this was the more reason why they sit on the board. And like I was saying, when you send in your script and they give you an authorization, the second level is you have, when you're done with the post-production, before this movie goes out, you have to bring back the film for a preview committee. And this preview committee sits with those members that I earlier on mentioned to look at the movie and see if it meets the norms under which they get you an authorization for.
Right.
I would tell you some of the films that are sent in, at times the ministry would look at it and say, oh, if we have a lot of pornography in this movie, peel it out. Our law in Cameroon does not accept pornography. Peel this thing out. There is a lot of, there's a revolutionary sin in it, peel it out. There is some a sin in it against certain aspects of government, peel it out. But I'm sure if you submit your script and the government gives you authorization, is they have given you an okay. So the Censors Board Committee sits at the end of the post-production to watch the movie and give you what we call a visa. And you have the visa S, which is for general view, and the visa C for censors, which means they look at it, that commission sees if this movie is not good for public view, or they give an age barrier, which you have to include at the beginning of the movie before it starts. So I think most of the movies have passed through this stage. Some of the producers will testify. For some of the producers, they will tell you they have not been able to go through this stage. And I think that is what actually brings this nuance of people not knowing about the existence of a censors board. But again, I heard my colleague Nkanya, who talks about a censors board within the Cameroon film industry. Yes. It's difficult at this stage when we are trying to build the industry. Some of the key issues which I would raise is the fact that who is sitting on the censors board within the Cameroon film industry. I was talking with the minister when I was still the chair of the Cameroon film industry. These are some of the issues that we raised. We wanted to know from the government of Cameroon if the Cameroon film industry could actually institute a censors board. In our constitution, which we had at the beginning, we actually had room for a censors board, and this is how it was run. Our proposal in our constitution for a censors board was to step up in terms of telling our African stories. We had lots of stories, because some of the stories that we write, Ernest, I said earlier that people write from enthusiasm. People write because they just want to act. I write a story because I want to be the main character. But I think we have gone past that stage where we want to stay at that level. We want to write stories that have a replication of the more than 152 ethnic groups that we have in Cameroon. We want to write stories that covers our Cameroonian bicultural nature. We want to write stories that have a background of our African in miniature that Cameroon is. So if we start looking at these stories, we have stories written by learned Cameroonians in literary and poetry form, which I think filmmakers should also adopt that principle of transforming this African fiction into cinema. And if this is done, Ernest, I will assure you that there will be no need for us to look more on the censors board, because one of the challenges we had at the level of creating a censors board within the Cameroon film industry was that Mr. X wants to sit on the board, Mr. C wants to sit on the board because he's a friend to Mr. Y. He wants to be on the board because he probably wants to give credit to Mr. Y or Mr. X because he wants his film to pass the censors thing. But I think with the censors board within the government structure, they are looking at it from a general perspective. And you cannot produce a film in Cameroon that you don't, without considering the fact that Cameroon is a state of law and has laws that bind us.
Wow, that is interesting. So, Waa Musi, we want to thank you so much. Before you go away, we need a last word from you vis-a-vis the quality of films we are producing and just how Cameroon can be better represented out there with its productions. So, one last word to filmmakers and, of course, the general public before you go away, Waa Musi.
Yeah, I just want to say Cameroon film industry today is like a covered pot of uncooked food. So the faster we start steaming the food and trying to know what is in the content of that pot, it will be for the better of African cinema. Thank you very much, Ennett.
Thank you so much, Waa Musi. And to have a fantastic rest of the day out there in Bamenda. Hopefully, we shall come back to you when we bring this topic on the airwaves some other time. 100%. Sang Pusang, 10 on 10. So, Gracie Boise, you were keen and following
Yeah,
those
sure.
discussions.
Yeah, very interesting. I don't know much about film, so I decided to be quiet and just listen. But that was a good one, really good one. They were quite explicit.
Right.
Really, really explicit.
Okay, we want to thank Nkanya, Nkwai, Ken, Charlie Monet, and of course Waa Musi for that brilliant contribution. A lot of education.
Really, really
I guess
educative. Like I said,
you
I
learned
listened keenly and I learned a lot too.
Good education.
Did listen.
And I also want to thank Cameroonian frontline producer Agbo Gilbert Ebot. I think he inspired this topic.
Oh, he did.
I don't want to get into the details, but he inspired me
Sure.
on this topic this week. Hopefully, we are going to have other filmmakers contribute to it because it looks like there is still much which can be said. But for one thing, we've learned that there is a film censors board in Cameroon run by the Ministry of Culture, Ministry of Arts and Culture.
I like the way he put it. He said most people do not know, but they go through it. You see, you listen to that part, which means they go through indirectly without knowing, by submitting their script to the board.
And so this 12th episode of African Fiesta was supported by
Classic Healthcare Services, the number one agency that provides the most valuable healthcare needs to the population of Columbus and surrounding area. Get to Classic Healthcare Services by driving to 788 Bush Court, Columbus, Ohio 43229, or call 614-848-3900. Their office hours are 9 a.m., 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. Classic Healthcare Services, they provide you the best home care services. The number again is 614-848-3900.
Okay.
You are listening to Apex One Radio. Stay with us for the best bet in the new wave of communication. Apex One Radio. Get informed, enjoy, and learn.